Hey, thanks for joining me today. I want to talk to you today about one of the greatest figures in the Catholic Church, a founder of the civil rights movement, and a Catholic whom you've probably never heard of. So we're taking a look at Bishop Robert Barron's marvelous Pivotal Players series. I remember having the privilege of being with him when he was shooting one of these episodes, and I asked him, Bishop Barron, who are you covering in this episode that you're working on right now? And he said, we're doing a piece on Bartolomé de las Casas. And I nodded my head and said, who is he again? And the answer is, in some ways, he's the founder of the modern day civil rights movement. If we understand him, we understand that the Catholic Church was right there at the beginning of this movement, long before the abolition of slavery, long before the segregation movement, laying the foundation for those crucial moves in our own culture. Here's why he's so important to know about. Because when this young Spanish man at the age of 18, when the new world is being discovered by the Europeans coming over from Spain, he was caught up in all the excitement of that discovery, wanting to make a name for himself, probably wanting to be rich. But when he saw the degrading way in which so many of the native people were treated in Cuba, in the Dominican Republic, his heart and mind started to change. And he started launching a campaign which you could call in some ways the founding of the civil rights movement. He started to argue on behalf of the indigenous people, making arguments that to our ears may sound normal or obvious, but I promise you, in the 16th century, very few cultures were aware of these argumentations. When you watch the video, I want you to ask yourself the question, how is he defending the indigenous people? What principles is he drawing on? Another question as you watch this episode is, how did his cantankerous and difficult personality limit his effectiveness? That's a helpful question for us because the question is not always, are we right? Sometimes the question is, in addition to having the truth, are we expressing the truth in the most winsome way possible? Also, as people who love St. Thomas Aquinas, ask yourself the question, in what way was Bartolomé de las Casas drawing on the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas in a very useful way, especially with respect to law? You may also want to consider, what was the strongest argument against what Bartolomé de las Casas was doing, and how did he refute that objection? I think now it's important to know about Bartolomé de las Casas for a few reasons. One is that there's a modern myth, which is that the Catholic Church has oppressed people for centuries, and in the dawn of the modern age, non-theistic and secular ways of thinking promoted civil rights. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The promotion of civil rights, flowing from the dignity of the human person, grew out of the Judeo-Christian thing. Bartolomé de las Casas, 400 years before Martin Luther King, before the abolition of slavery. And I think there's a pretty strong argument that he started in an explicit way that movement which would overturn slavery and which would help the country of the United States overcome segregation. Bartolomé de las Casas, maybe the most important Catholic whom you've never heard of. I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for joining me.